When the 2026 Formula One season kicks off, no team will be under more pressure than Aston Martin, not Ferrari, not Mercedes, and not even Red Bull. Because in 2026, Aston Martin won't be judged on their performances, they'll be judged on their entire vision that they have built around this season alone. They have hired the greatest designer in Formula One history. They have a state-of-the-art facility at Silverstone, and they have promised Fernando Alonso one last shot at glory. And now, everything is on the line. Aston Martin aren't pretending anymore. They are not a midfield team, and they are certainly not going to make up the numbers. Their statement of intent is they want to win, and they need to with Lawrence Stroll's vision. Lawrence Stroll and the team's management have stated very publicly they're not here to make up the numbers, they are here to win. Aston Martin have built a state-of-the-art facility out at Silverstone Race Circuit. They have a brand new tunnel, and they've also signed on a new engine manufacturer, with Honda signing on to the team for 2026. But the biggest of all, they have signed the greatest modern designer in Formula One history in Adrian Newey. This is the moment that Aston Martin has been building towards for years, and moments like these don't come around for a second chance. Aston Martin's statement of intent came when they landed the historic signing back in March of 2025. They signed the greatest modern designer in Adrian Newey, and his sole purpose was to make the best car for the Formula One 2026 regulation changes. When you actually think about it, whilst Adrian Newey is not a driver, he is arguably the biggest signing news of 2025 for the 2026 season. Adrian Newey is the sole architect that has brought championship titles to McLaren, to Williams, and more recently to Red Bull. When Adrian Newey signed on in March of 2025, his sole role was head designer. But at the back half of 2025, we have seen this change, and he will now become the team principal of Aston Martin. What's fascinating about this is Christian Horner, the former team principal at Red Bull, very publicly came out and said that Adrian Newey probably wouldn't be the best team principal with multiple people coming to him. His words will be put to the test as Newey takes this team into the brand new regulation changes. Aston Martin have shown by promoting Adrian Newey, they don't just sign brilliance, they are literally handing him the keys and saying, best of luck, make this team win. Adrian Newey isn't just the finishing touch. He is the philosophy. He is the architect. But there's one catch. Adrian Newey has thrived when he's been given freedom in his roles, and the organisation has structure around Adrian Newey. But if Aston Martin fails to convert his genius into results, there'll be nowhere left to hide for Newey and the Aston Martin racing team. At the heart of the Aston Martin team is Fernando Alonso, the two-time Formula One world champion, and he signed onto the team when Sebastian Vettel retired back in 2022. For the former two-time world champion, he's been waiting around for a decade to get a shot at another race-winning car and potentially even championship glory. He hasn't seen these days since he left Ferrari back in 2014. For Fernando Alonso, he doesn't need any more promises. He needs a car capable of being at the front, capable of podiums and even race wins. For Alonso, he doesn't want to retire by thinking of the what if. And for the better part of the decade, Alonso's career has been the biggest what if. What if Ferrari had worked? What if the McLaren team had got their engine right? And potentially, what if Aston Martin hasn't nailed these 2026 regulation changes? And honestly, in my opinion, 2026 is realistically the final roll of the dice for Aston Martin and Fernando Alonso. If Aston Martin fails to deliver early, and even if the car improves later in the season, I think it's too little too late, and we'll see Alonso leave the Formula One grid at the end of the 2026 season. Now, this is where things get interesting. This is where Aston Martin's risk potentially multiplies. The sentiment in the entire paddock is that Ferrari are wasting the very valuable years of Charles Leclerc being at the Scuderia. He's been at this team since 2019, and he hasn't had a realistic shot at the championship yet. And what we are seeing is it's becoming increasingly difficult for Charles Leclerc to realistically think he will win a world championship at the Scuderia. And that's down to a number of factors: politics, strategy errors, and pressure. When the chips have been down, Ferrari have not been able to play the right hand, and the Leclerc camp is thinking about moving from Ferrari. And what people may not realise is the first few races of the 2026 season have never become more important, especially for Ferrari, but even more for Aston Martin. And the reason being is the Leclerc camp is watching for their next move. If Ferrari don't get these regulations right and they stumble again, and if Aston Martin show genuine pace, then Aston Martin could become one of the most attractive signings in the driver market. But if Aston Martin doesn't deliver, they don't just lose points, they lose credibility and any shot of signing a big fish. And once a top-tier driver loses faith, there's no turning back. And look, here's the reality. Red Bull know how to win. McLaren have won back-to-back championships. Mercedes know how to rebuild a team under great structure. And Ferrari? Well, Ferrari will be able to attract everyone because it's Ferrari. But for Aston Martin, this is their window. They've invested far too much. They have promised too much, and so many pieces of the puzzle are aligning for this team. And if this doesn't work out, it's not just a setback, it's a fundamental failure of their vision they've been building for a number of years. 2026 will tell us everything about the Aston Martin team, not just whether they are fast, but whether they belong at the top of the Formula One grid. With Adrian Newey in charge, with Fernando Alonso chasing closure, and with the future driver market watching closely, this isn't just a season for Aston Martin, it's Aston Martin's reckoning. Let me know in the comments, do you think Aston Martin will rise, or do you think they'll crack under pressure in the 2026 Formula One season? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for tuning in to another episode from the Sports Playbook. We are your go-to for fast sport news and athlete stories.